A couple weeks ago, I went to the public library for the first time here in Hanover and decided to get a library card. I did have to pay for it, which is a little bit of a bummer, but 12 euros for the year is not horrible. Unfortunately, I just got it in April when I leave in June. Wish I would have done that a lot sooner. But anyway, now that I have a library membership, I realize I have access to books, especially English books. They have a good 3 or 4 shelves worth of English novels, which is really exciting. So I thought I would give you guys a quick review of the books I've read in the past few weeks. The first book being Still Me by Jojo Moyes. She is the author who wrote Me Before You. It became a movie about this kind of spunky, she's a very like eclectic fashion sense girl who becomes a caretaker for this guy who became a paraplegic in a motorcycling accident. Of course, it's a love story, they develop feelings, but ultimately he decides. And this book is the sequel, how she navigates life after him. I honestly don't know if this is the second book, like the book right after the first book, or if this is the third book. Oh, I skipped the second one. It says Me Before You, After You, Still Me. Honestly, it's good as a standalone book. She didn't write it so that you need to have like knowledge on what happens in the second book, so I don't think I'm gonna read it. I love Jojo Moyes. I've read 3 or 4 of her other books in addition to Me Before You. I love every single one. This one was no exception. I don't think it's one of my favorite books. I think my favorite one, I forgot what it was called, but it was about a bunch of brides of English GIs from Australia, and they were all put on a ship to get taken to England, and that's like, it follows the story of 3 or 4 of the brides on the ship. This book, she moves to New York, she gets a job as like the assistant of some rich family, and she has a boyfriend back in the UK, and so, but then they have some troubles, and then she meets a guy who looks exactly like Will Traynor, the paraplegic guy. And so like that's kind of a plot twist, like, okay, what's gonna happen with this guy? Interesting book, well written. I love Jojo Moyes because she can bring dependable romance themed books without so much smut. And also the characters are likable, but they're not predictable. She's just my cup of tea, and I hope she writes some more books soon. So that is my review on Jojo Moyes, Still Me. The next book that I'm gonna review is Talking at Night by Claire DeVerley. I don't know if that's how you say her name, but this book, I had a lot of thoughts about this book, but not like particularly deep thoughts, just like I knew after I read this book, I wanted to do a book review YouTube video. The plot of the book is it's 2 twins, a girl and a boy. And then there's kind of like this bad boy character who becomes friends with the brother, helps him with math homework. They're like the only 2 guys in this very advanced math class. The girl twin kind of has like feelings for him, but she's kind of unsure like if he has feelings for her. Then one evening, something tragic happens, and boy brother, he dies. So the rest of the book is kind of following the bad boy character and the twin sister about like how they're navigating love and friendship, and like how are they supposed to interact with each other after this like tragic event. The thing is, this book really did feel like it was a script for some kind of Netflix TV show adaptation. Like, not that everything was so predictable, but the characters just felt very like TV show-like. I didn't really like anyone. Half the book, I was like, I'm on the bad boy side. Like, this chick is freaking annoying. I have to say, I was curious enough to know how the story went to continue reading. So like, I wanted to know what would happen. So I finished it. So it's not a didn't finish book. I finished it. It's just, it was lackluster at the end. I don't know. I had the feeling like there was supposed to be this climax at the end where we're really rooting for the 2 to like figure out their shit, but it's not that exciting, and I didn't really like the characters. So that's that. Hello everyone, it's been a few days, or rather a few weeks, and I have another book that I just finished that I wanted to share my thoughts on. This book is called Quarter Life by Satya Doyle Bayok. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and it is a self-help book from a therapeutic perspective for people specifically in their early part of adulthood. She doesn't really like the terms young adult or emerging adulthood or beginning adulthood. That's why she coined her own word, quarter lifer, which she categorizes anyone depending on the person between 16 and 36, which I think is a very large range, but You know, there isn't really milestones for young adults to feel like they've reached a developmental stage. She comes at this also from like a Carl Jung perspective, and she also is from, or at least lives in Portland, Oregon. Those two facts are very, very clear in this book. The side-off sentences written in between random chapters, I was like, okay, she is a social justice warrior, and she wouldn't tell you that's wrong, because on the back cover it says she's a social justice warrior. So I don't know if I recommend this book or not. I love self-help books, especially books that I feel like are written by people who are smart and have a good heart, and they're giving advice from not a capitalistic perspective, but from a perspective of, hey, this is what I've learned from my experience as XYZ, in this case a therapist. Let me help you and teach you what I feel like you should know. And I do think she comes from a genuine perspective of trying to help quarter lifers, as she calls them. I don't think we probably see eye to eye on lots of things, but I took what I could from this book, and I think I have also determined that maybe I am way more well-adjusted than a lot of people in my generation are, and so I want to thank the Lord Jesus above for that. For a self-help book, for quarter lifer-esque people, it's not a bad choice. It's definitely a nice, pleasant read on a train, makes you feel a little bit smart, makes you feel therapeutic. If I had to compare this book to A Defining Decade, which is also a book written from a therapeutic perspective for 20-somethings, I would take The Defining Decade over this book. Some people could really appreciate her eccentric, more spiritualistic, more Carl Jung theory type vibe. So that's this book. And this is going to be a very long video. I'm so sorry, but I feel like there's bookworms out there who want an honest opinion from some chick that's not reading smut all day, so I'm your girl if that's you. Just finished another book. I'm kind of on like a book reading spree, which is fun because I haven't been reading regularly for a while. This book's called The Foundling by Stacey Hulse. Once again, went into the German library, picked up a random book from the English section and said, I'm taking you home. And I was so pleasantly surprised with this book. I really enjoyed reading it, and the plot is quite interesting. It's about an unmarried woman who has a baby. She is a shrimp saleswoman. She can't afford to take care of the baby, so she takes it to this hospital, which takes in the babies of unmarried mothers. Only a few, though. They have like a lottery every year. And takes care of them and teaches them trades, and she has the hope that one day she will earn enough money to save up to get her baby back. So the baby is taken by the hospital. 6 years later, she has saved up enough money only to come to find out that someone has already taken her baby, and actually it was her, apparently, according to their documents, the day after the baby was given to the hospital. So the baby has not been there for the past 6 years like she thought she was. The whole story, quite interesting. The only downside is that the ending is terrible. And it's not terrible like bad, sad, terrible. It's just like the way the author decided to wrap up all the ribbons and make it all tidied and finished at the end. I was like, this is not realistic. It would never happen. But still a solid read. I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted to keep reading to know what would happen in the plot. All of the characters were really interesting and complex, and there wasn't ever a time where I was like, this is boring. So I recommend this book. I give it a 4 out of 5. It is 11 p.m. and I just finished this book. It's called Etta and Otto and Russell and James by Emma Hooper. It is set in Saskatchewan, Canada, and it time travels between the Great Depression, World War II, and modern days. One thing I really appreciated about this book is that there's a lot of allusions to things. There's a lot of, you have to connect the dots yourself as a reader, and so there's just a lot of ambiguity, and it's almost like a puzzle to figure out kind of the gaps in the story, or maybe what the author is alluding to. This would be a perfect book club book, because this is a book that just, I feel like you finish it satisfied but with so many questions, and that is a perfect book to discuss in a group. So if anybody is in a book club and needs a book recommendation, I think this one could be a really good fit. This is a hidden gem, and I'm glad I found it at the Hannover Public Library. I just finished another book. This one is called The Man Who Didn't Call, and this one was published in the UK, but I found out that the versions published in Canada and the US, the book is called Ghosted, which I think fits the title well more than The Man Who Didn't Call. That's literally what ghosting is, but whatever. The plot point is, it's this woman, and she meets this man. They have an incredible week together, he has to go on holiday, and he says, I'm gonna call you, and we're gonna get back together when I come back. They meet when she's on holiday to go visit her parents. He doesn't call her. Who? I can't really say too much more without spoiling the book. The first half was a little bit whiny, crazy woman mode, trying to hunt him down. Then the second half picks up a bit. There's a twist I was not expecting. And I do feel like this type of book, this genre of book, creative plot, storytelling, romance, it's like a movie script. I just really feel like these books and like these authors are creating the perfect movie scripts for some very entertaining Lifetime movies. If you just need a beach read, I think this is a good call and a good storyline that's semi-interesting. So that's my book review for The Man Who Didn't Call. I just like 5 minutes ago finished Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. It's a classic. The book also includes some sequels that Louisa May wrote that I didn't even know existed. Little Men and Joe's Boys, talking about like Joe's life post Little Women, but I'm not interested in reading those. The 1990s version of Little Women, the movie, has been a favorite of mine. It's been a comfort film since childhood. I think the newer film that came out is also a pleasant movie, and I would watch it again. I only watched it once in theaters, but I would watch it again. And so I thought it was time that I actually read the book in which those movies are based off of. And I have to say, I quite enjoyed reading this. I don't think I liked it as much as my all-time favorites of Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, and Sense and Sensibility. However, this did add a little bit more meat to the story, more character development that you don't get in the movies, although I do feel like the movies did fairly well at giving you the essence of each of the sisters. One thing I'll add is I always thought when reading the movies that Beth, who's like this angelic, always kind, so patient, so sweet kind of character, how she just feels so unattainable, and it's like odd that she's like almost worshipped in the family as this like the best sister, or like, I don't know, the most selfless sister. And reading the book, I don't know if the author thought about this or if this is just the way that I took the description of Beth as a sister, but I think that she might be, this is my hypothesis, maybe Beth is a little bit mentally delayed. Down syndrome, maybe. If I think of me having a sister with Down syndrome, I mean, they have so much love and care for people. They're always so friendly and they're always thinking of others. So that makes more sense, but that's just my hypothesis. The book is split into two. In the first half, there's no romantic interest. And I'm pretty sure the publishers were not like exactly happy about that. And she rejects Lori, who's kind of like the best childhood friend of hers her entire life. The abruptness and also awkwardness of her romantic relationship with the professor character feels really weird in the movies, and it feels equally as weird in the book. He gets plenty of time and development and story building. I guess I just can't wrap my mind around the fact that like he's old, he's German. I don't really know. I don't know. I just didn't connect with Professor Bear, and I didn't really get that. I love Joe as a character. I love Amy. I think Amy's character makes a lot more sense when you read the book. I think Meg makes a lot more sense in the book. There's a lot more scenes where it's just Meg in her home with her husband, and then like her struggles raising toddlers. Like, it's just like cute little vignettes of life as a newly married woman. What I love about classics is I have pretty good certainty that I will enjoy the book, or if I won't enjoy the book, that I'll respect the book and I'll see it for its literary value. Whereas, you know, if you just get recommended a more modern book, it's kind of a 50-50 or worse. So I knew this was going to be a good read. Oh, one more thing I will add is she makes some jokes about, you know, Joe is submitting papers and articles and things to get money. And she, like, Joe makes a quip about how the publishers are always trying to take out her little moral musings that she puts into her stories, and that they always want to take out the parts where the character is like thinking about right and wrong and what it means to be a good person, and you know, just takes her stories to the bare bones. And what I think is so funny and ironic about that section of story is that Louisa May, this book is full of moral musings. It's full of little spiritual side little monologues where she talks about being faithful, having patience, you know, learning to serve others before yourself, learning about the value of hard work, learning about love and marriage and family. Like, she has all these little paragraph long or 2 paragraph long little like moral minutes with Louisa May. And so I almost feel like maybe that part where Jo's complaining is from her own personal experience, because her books are full of little moral musings. And I thought that it was endearing, and it reminded me of North and South. That book also has a lot of spiritual elements where the author, it like does not apply to the story at all, but just goes off about like being faithful and praying and trusting the Lord. So it's like, I don't know. I can also tell this book, Louisa May, I did some research on her parents. They have some really interesting faith backgrounds and some adventurous things they try to do and create their own commune and stuff. You could tell she was a Quaker in the way that she referred to God as a friend, like with a capital F. I think Quakers really like emphasize the whole friend element of God. Not that I disagree with that, but I just thought it was an interesting perspective, and I wanted to know where she kind of got that. Anyway, I recommend this book. I think it's a good read. If you enjoyed the movies, I think that this could enhance your appreciation of the movies and kind of see where maybe the movies obviously had to cut some things and give you a more fuller version of the characters. So I'm glad I read this. I hope that I'm filling a niche, or that I find my people, and maybe I can actually find some YouTube recommenders or readers who have some recommendations that are more up my alley. So if you have people that you've been watching, like, let me know, because I would love to kind of get into the right niche of readers. That is what I've read this past couple of months, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more. See you guys!